Lexium is an online digital law firm. We've started this project back in 2017 in Lebanon. My background is in legal, so I worked in the United States as a lawyer. I sat for the New York bar, for the Paris bar, for the Beirut bar. So I practiced in all these jurisdictions, and came back to Lebanon to launch the startup. A year after that, we were able to raise from 500 startups who are a major accelerator and investor in the startup ecosystem worldwide. So we managed to raise from San Francisco around at a valuation of around 5 million. That was the seed stage. And then we started growing incrementally as we were going forward. We're expanding towards the GCC, Saudi Arabia, and Dubai. So the concept of Lexium is providing legal services in an automated but yet personalized way to try to kind of work with startups at a fast pace. And we realized that there was a problem with startups actually needing legal services and needing them in a way that is kind of special, not the same traditional way. So that was behind what was behind the project. And we've grew very, very fast. And we were one of the lucky, kind of, I might say, lucky ones in the COVID crisis to actually benefit from COVID, because we were like very early into the market before anyone. So we benefited from the exposure and the positioning, and we were able to actually cater for startups during COVID to register their companies, do contract reviews, draft contracts for them, but also help them in raising funds and closing their investment rounds. So that is Lexium in a nutshell. That's me in a nutshell. I want to start with a very basic question, because I really like to start with this question every time I do a presentation. Every time I try to explain how to be ready when you are trying to raise funds and scale your business. I like to start with the really basic concept of a startup, because a lot of people mistake a startup to a regular company, to something that is a bit more traditional, but it's not at all. A startup is a breathing, ever-growing person. So it's not something that is static. It's dynamic. That meets many other people, has its good days and bad days, working hard to make it to the top. Okay, so the point is to get to the top. The point is not to remain at a stagnating level. Now, we are seeing new concepts arising in the startup ecosystem, whereby a startup is more defined as a 3 to 5x project, whereby you start your business and then you exit with 3 to 5 times the value. It's not what we were catering for the past 3 years. We were catering for projects that try to make it to 30 to 50 times value, and then exit potentially reaching several $1 million in valuation. So that is kind of what a startup is. There's a very high risk. There's a very high risk involved. You might succeed very, very radically, but you might also fail quite drastically. The main components of a startup, or the main stakeholders, are the founders. We're going to discuss the founders' issues, and this is a crucial part, because a lot of startups fail because of misunderstandings between the founders, and this is very important to tackle. Service providers, employees, distributors, and investors. All of these create the startup and make the project ready to get investment. And that's what we're going to discuss from a legal standpoint. The most scary things to worry about, and I wanted to touch base on these basic points as well. So founders fighting amongst each other. That's something very common. usually about percentage, about who is going to do what, who is going to get the exposure. A lot of things go into play in the startup. And if you think that you are kind of immune from this, think twice, because the experience gets you a lot of ego trips, a lot of aspects that kind of go into play. Employees ripping off the company, taking some data, taking some clients' contacts. This could happen a lot. Customers ripping off the company, suppliers ripping off the company, and investors not committing to their dues if you haven't signed the relevant agreements with them or the relevant documentation. Okay, the legal readiness. So we're going to discuss 3 main points in this workshop. And I'm sorry if I'm not taking any question because I can't see your questions at this point. I can just see my presentation. So I'm going to go through with my presentation and then stop in a couple of minutes, or maybe 10 to 15 minutes, to try to see if someone has any questions. So we're going to discuss 3 main topics: agreements, corporate governance, and compliance and IP. These are the main 3 components that you would need to actually be ready for investment. Talking from basic personal experience, raising funds for Lexium, we went through these processes. So we went through all the due diligence that is involved in actually raising funds. The due diligence is the investor looking at all your company, looking at all your documentation, all your structure, to see if this startup is healthy or not. It's a kind of health check for you, but also if this startup can sustain the pressures of scaling throughout markets and scaling to an international level. So we're going to start with the agreements needed and how we're going to do them, and then go into the corporate governance and how you should do it. And I know that it's not something very common in Lebanon to manage your corporate governance in an accurate way, but this is something that you should start learning how to do very fast, because professional institutional investors will always look for these kinds of things in investing in your company. And even after they go into your company, they will also be very picky on the corporate governance level. And then we're going to discuss the compliance and IP. I'm going to go through a bit of intellectual property and then wrap it up. Okay, so what are the agreements? The main agreement you need to worry about. First is the co-founder agreement. So the co-founder agreement is something that you sign with your co-founders that can come at a very early stage. So hatta before you kind of register your company, register your business, a co-founder agreement is crucial in actually managing your business or organizing your business. How to do so? It's a very basic agreement. It's straightforward. It's not very complex from a legal perspective, but still it's very important. Why? Because it lays down what you are giving. What it organizes the relationship with the co-founders. So what you are giving to the business, what you are receiving from the business in matters of percentages, what is your role in actually managing this business? Are you the CEO? Are you the chief marketing officer, the chief product officer? Are you the chief technical officer? Are you doing everything related to development and coding? It organizes this kind of relationships. What are your tasks? Some people in the co-founder agreement go into operational tasks. So that's very important to some people. Some people remain at a more general level to kind of organize the financial aspect of going into the startup. It structures each person's roles and organizes the demise. So it organizes the fact that if we fail, what happens? Who takes what? Who takes the IP? And mainly it's the IP that is into play. The name, the logo, the brand, the potential code that you might have written for your business if you're building a tech startup. In an e-commerce, maybe the assets you have, the merchandise you have, it could be anything. That's for the co-founder agreement. For the consultancy agreement, as soon as you start, we always advise you to get consultants, to get advisors. And this is something that we are not very used to in Lebanon. We consider that it's easier to do it by ourselves, but it's not. Try to reach out to people in your community, in the ecosystem. There are so many smart people and so many really genius people in Lebanon and in the startup ecosystem, like Lebanese, not necessarily in Lebanon, but like Lebanese who you can reach out to and ask them to kind of support you. There are people who are very helpful. I personally help a lot of startups, try to kind of advise them on how to move forward. And I do a lot of content also on social media in regards to that. That's part of me giving back to the community and giving back as a social initiative. So that's something that you should consider. So doing a consultancy agreement or an advisor's agreement with them is very important. The scope of work, definitely the invoicing rates, timeless and deadlines, termination clauses. Sometimes it's pro bono. So just actually defining the scope and getting the agreement ready and signed is very important. Why is it important? It adds to the value of your startup. Because remember, every agreement that you sign has a value, and this value will add to the overall valuation of your startup. And this is very important. These agreements are not only legal agreements. They are kind of, if you want, value added items that will actually raise your valuation, raise your the amount that the investor will value your company at, and therefore invest in you the amount, the percentage that they're going to invest. So this is very important as well. Employment and service agreements are crucial as well to do. I would definitely advise you to go for service agreements at first, because you kind of evade all the aspect of kind of social security, and sometimes you deal with people from a service agreement perspective. That would be an added value, but bear in mind that you cannot call an employment agreement a service agreement for the sake of evading the social security aspect. There are very like small tricks that you could do, but definitely you need to be very very attentionate about that. Make sure that when it's a service agreement, the person is not coming on a regular basis to the office or attending a certain like daily routine, getting a salary at the end of the month. This would define as employment, even if you have named your agreement as a service agreement. Okay, so that's very important. I will share with you the slides so you will see the difference between an employee and a consultant, and for you to kind of try to understand how to handle this. Okay, I will not go into details related to employment and service, because you will have them in the slides. I just want to remain on the same topic, which is being ready for raising funds. Okay, the distribution agreement, definitely with your distributors, you should have certain agreements that you should keep with you at all times to make sure that they are getting what what you owe them, but also you are getting the quality of the products that you are looking for. If it's an e-commerce, make sure to have agreements with whoever you're dealing with to get the exact item you are looking for. Okay, so that's very important. Typical elements of a distributor agreement: terms and conditions of sale, term of contract, marketing rights, trademark licensing, performance, reporting, termination of contract. Make sure that everything that you are producing is yours. Make sure to add the IP in it, because also this will raise your valuation. Okay, and then finally the shareholders agreement. Shareholders agreement is the most important agreement you could do, because it will involve your co-founders, but also the investors that will be on board with you. It will organize all of your startup, all of your e-commerce, all of your project and your company, and it has a certain structure. We can also go into details in the questions about the shareholders agreement, but I just wanted to lay down these agreements to tell you that these add value to your startup and will make you ready for investment. These are things that you should have when trying to raise funding. Okay, NDA agreements definitely with everyone you talk to protect your data, to protect against competition. So non-compete clause could be included to make sure that your project is kind of protected from that level as well. Okay. How can an NDA help? Definitely, it defines confidential information. It helps to enforce consequences in case someone takes your data, and preserve your business relations. So I'm going to stop here for a second, go back to the questions and see if someone has any questions. So the agreements, guys, are very important to keep in one place, to have them signed in 2 copies. Okay, I will share all the slides, Dana. Yes, I will share all the slides, and I will answer any questions. You have my contact as well. I will share my contact information at the end of the session, so that you can also be informed of anything that you would like to ask about. I will share all the presentation, so don't worry. I will share all the presentation, and I will be available to support if you have any questions, so don't worry about that. So that's for the agreement. That's the main component for a due diligence to be done, is to have these agreements stored in one place. The next thing we're going to discuss is the corporate governance. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the slides. Sorry, I think Rima. Yeah, I know the legal system is a bit difficult in Lebanon, but bear in mind that you're trying to scale internationally. So everything I'm telling you, you can actually apply in your daily life and work on it from an international perspective. Even registering a company abroad is possible. Opening a bank account abroad is possible. The boundaries post-COVID are far easier. Although we are in lockdown, although we are in crisis, and there's a kind of political lockdown on Lebanon that is not making it very easy, but still there are solutions, so don't worry about it. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the slides. Okay, so corporate governance. So what is corporate governance? Corporate governance is the actual management of your company. So I just want to separate. You have, in corporate governance, you have 3 main aspects. So you have the shareholders. As a company, when you have a company, you have shareholders. And you are you are part of these shareholders. You have investors who are also part of shareholders. So كلهم عندهم shares. They have shares in your in the business. You all have a total of 100%, and that is divided into percentages depending on how many are in the business. So the shareholders are the strongest kind of part of the business. They get to make the biggest decisions. They get to make the biggest changes in the business. Imagine the shareholders as an electorate, an electoral college. So they kind of get to vote on the big things. The shareholder agreement, if we're going to wind up the company, if we're going to merge with another company, if we're going to bring in a big investor, the shareholders are the ones that do it. Then you have the board who actually oversees the business. You have board members that can be assigned, and board members can be also advisors or observing board members. And you have the executives who are actually managing the business on a daily basis. And a chief executive officer is someone managing the business. Why am I telling you this? Because this is very important to understand when you're trying to organize your business. And this, for the investor, when you're trying to scale your business, is very, very important, because the investor will ask you, what are you doing? How are you not commingling between shareholders and executives if you have executives, and how are you organizing the relationship between all these components and all these people inside your business? Okay, so as soon as you start your business, definitely start documenting. Yani, what I want from you is, when you're starting your business, or if you have started already your business and you're trying to scale, make sure that whenever you have a meeting between on the shareholder level or with the board or into adding 2 or 3 people, make sure to take minutes of meetings. Make sure to say who has attended. Make sure to make people sign at the end. It's very easy. You can make it through DocuSign. You don't have to print and go through the hassle. Things are very easy to do right now. There are template minutes of meetings that you could download, use it, and try to make people sign for decisions that you have taken, so that everything is in the clear, and so that you can go back to whatever was decided and make sure to have a track. Say on January 1st, we decided to scale to, for example, to the UAE. We decided to take an office. We decided to take a virtual office. We decided to partner up with someone in the UAE potentially to grow our services, for example. Okay, there are different types of businesses. Corporate governance would apply to all these businesses, but in Lebanon you have different types of businesses that also are in the slides, and you can check them later because we have barely around 10 minutes remaining. So I'm gonna move forward. But you can check all these types of businesses and how you can actually find the best one for you. There are also international structures that can help you scale abroad. When you start your business, you start with articles of association or articles of incorporation. These articles are kind of the constitution of your business. They are kind of the same as the shareholder agreement, with a bit of difference being the fact that the articles are on the commercial registry level, while the shareholders agreement is between you guys. It's an agreement, but you kind of replicate whatever is in the articles of incorporation to the shareholder agreement. Okay, so you have the articles as we have discussed, the board, يلي حكينا عنه, general assembly, the investors, and then you have to make sure that if you are a startup that is مثلا in fintech, you have to be compliant with financial regulators مثل Central Bank بلبنان أو Capital Markets Authority CMA, أو إذا بدبي مثلا with the IFC or any regulator that is related to your business. Okay, so that's the second part, the corporate governance. يعني قلنا number one, to have all the agreements in one place, to make sure that all these agreements are stored, saved, and signed, dated. قلنا شو هن agreements. حكينا number two عن corporate governance, to make sure that all your meetings with your team are documented, are with minutes of meetings, so that you can clarify to the investor اللي جاي لعندكم, hey, we did this in January, we did this in February, we did this in March, we did this, we took this decision, and we actually implemented whatever we decided, and therefore our valuation is at this level. Okay, remember that the agreements, كل الagreements اللي بتحطوهم مثلا, if you have an agreement with a major CTO, chief technology officer أو حدا technical, and you have done the agreement for a 3-year term مثلا with a very low income, مع عم تعطوه salary كتير واطي مثلا, this adds to your valuation. This shows the investor that انتوا عم تشتغلوا on the valuation level, and therefore he will invest in you just because you have an agreement with someone that is really professional. Okay, so that's very important. So حكينا أول شيء عن agreements, و number 2 عن corporate governance. So these are 2 components. The third component is the compliance and the IP. And remember, when you are a startup, most of the time you're not generating enough revenue to cover your burn rate, yani the amount that you're spending per month. So technically you are losing money. But what is the value of a startup? The value of a startup is in its intellectual property. So when looking at the intellectual property, it's very important to actually have it stored and have it registered. Okay, so definitely you have to look at the regulatory compliance in Lebanon to make sure that you are compliant with things related to مثلا certain agreements being signed and stamped مثلا. These are things that you should worry about, and work with your legal counsel on actually making sure that all your agreements are in order. And the intellectual property. So what is the intellectual property? The intellectual property هن basically كل شيء inventions, كل شيء trademarks, كل شيء designs, symbols, names, images, lines of code, everything that comprises your startup or even your e-commerce. التريدمارك تبعكم, النيم, البراند نيم, كل شيء related to everything that is kind of related to the brand. So why is it important? أول شيء because it gives you definitely the right to own this intellectual property, but also to control it and to use it. You cannot use any information. And now يعني بلكي 2 years down the road, 2 years earlier كنا نحكي عن ال intellectual property بطريقة in a very simple way أكثر من هلا. Today you can control who can actually see your data. Even on Instagram, on Facebook, they are adding features related to copyright, related to images that are put on social media and that are owned by someone. Even when you put a certain music on your Instagram feed or story, if this music is owned by someone, Instagram will not let you actually use it. This was something that was not possible 3-4 years ago, simply because the technology was not, it was there, but it was not really being used heavily. Today, more and more, the data is owned by people and it's more and more protected. So the more you can protect your data, register your trademark as soon as possible, register your brand name as soon as possible, the more you are protected. Okay, so this will give you the monetization and the valuation I was telling you about. There are different types of intellectual property. منهم الكوبيرايت, يعني كل شيء بتكتبوه technically, كل شيء بتكتبوه on your website, كل شيء بتكتبوه in content, in blogs, كله هيدا copyrighted. في يكون copyrighted وفي يكون محمي. It can be protected for you to actually use it and monetize it later on. Okay, there are trade secrets, there are industrial designs, copyright مثل ما قلت لكم, articles, research, marketing materials, drawings, photographs, everything فينا نحط له copyright. You know this small sign that you can see on the screen. This is when you are copywriting your data. Definitely there are patents you file. إذا عندكم a very innovative idea, then you can file for a patent. You can file for a patent in the United States or elsewhere. And sometimes it works. You can protect your invention, and it would make you a lot of money just actually filing that patent. يعني في عالم that have a business into filing patents. They create ideas, they file patents. If it works, they make a lot of money selling these patents. Okay, trademarks مثل ما قلت لكم, you choose a name, you file a trademark application, and then you publish it. Okay. بلبنان, it's very easy. You go to the Ministry of Economy and Trade. The head of the ministry is an amazing guy, by the way. Objectively, he can help you out. You can reach out. You can go there. They are very, very helpful. One of the ministries that are actually one of the departments that are quite active in Lebanon. So when should you seek investment? You should seek investment when you are established and when you have a minimum viable product. So the more you are advanced in your startup, the more you have a product that can show the investor the value that you are trying to do or to provide to the markets, the more they will give you money. Okay, and the more they will value your product, and the more they will actually, their percentage, if they're taking 5%, if they're valuing at $1 million, it's $50,000. If they're valuing at $10 million, it's $500,000. So that would make a difference in whatever you're going to use in money to operate your business. Venture capital, مين الانفسترز؟ في عندنا venture capital firms, في accelerators, في angel investors, وفي incubators. And trust me, there are many angels that are waiting for smart ideas. There are many venture capitals in the region that are waiting, and internationally there are venture capital firms that are looking into the Middle East, looking into the region for new opportunities. هلا post-COVID they're trying to open up and look for these hidden gems, and they will look at you if you can reach out with the right documentation, with the right pitch, and make it. Pitching your idea to a potential investor is presenting your idea is presenting your idea to your potential investor in the best way, sorry for the typo, easiest and shortest way possible. Okay, I have added some best practices to ensure that you are not actually going into a bad path. Most important advice I can give you is to know your number, keep your team happy, go for the hunt for opportunities, seek potentially discounts, offer things to keep the turnover going in your business, and that's it. So I kind of try to cover the business aspect and the legal aspect, and basically this is what I wanted to tell you, to try to kind of organize your startup and your e-commerce in the best way possible to try to raise funding. So I will open the door for a few questions. I know I'm a bit late, so sorry. So how much do you want to ask for amount from the money from the investor? It depends, Dana. It depends, because again, you will have to compile all the agreements that you have. As I told you, the product that you have is a product that is already a minimum viable product or not, that is selling or not. Do you have a team that is working or not? These are questions that need to be asked when actually putting a value to your business. And it's very important. It's very, very, very important, guys, to be very aggressive in talking to investors. Try to get your product ready. Try to be confident of what you are selling. Know your product. Know exactly the technical parts, and just discuss, negotiate. There is no like golden rule for valuations in startups. Some startups started at $1 million, but some started at $10 million. Some started at $500,000 in valuation. So it could vary. Okay, depending on the investor you're seeking, depending on the people you're talking to, and depending hatta on your image, because as well into the experience that you have, the kind of the technical part that you have is very important in showcasing the value that you can provide in the future. So this is very important. And I just want to state one note before continuing the question. You have around 35 to 40 days before the end of year. The investors will be a bit slow in responding hella, but starting January, they will definitely be answering you very fast. So take this time to actually prepare your documentation. بلشوا حضروا، اعملوا داتا روم، جوجل درايف، حطوا فيه الاجريمنتس تبعكم، حطوا فيه البزنس بلان تبعكم، حطوا فيه الفاينانشال بروجكشنز تبعكم، حطوا فيه كل شيء related to your startup, organize it تشوفوها قدامكم هيك structured وواضحه, and have them ready for the next phase. I will share it here, George, the email and my social media definitely also, because I share a lot of content out there. Lexion.com. This is my email, and social media is my name actually. So basically that's it. Do you have any other questions, guys? I just want to go through. Is عندكم any questions we can discuss before shutting down? I'm happy to help. Yeah, Umnia, thank you so much. I will definitely share the presentation. Please send me an email, guys, so I share the presentation with you. You have it. Okay, so that's a very important question, Muhammad, relating to IP. There are systems worldwide. Yani, when you register in Lebanon, your IP, you have a priority to register in around 115 countries around the world. You have a 6-month timeline to register in all these countries. So because we are part of an international agreement with these countries, whereby we have a priority. The US has a different ball game. So we can differentiate between the Middle East, Lebanon, and these countries اللي حكيت عنهم, and the United States. So what I would advise you to start with, to be on the safe side, is to register in Lebanon, your trademark, and to register in the US. It's not very expensive. It's around $100, $200. Abroad, I think it's in Lebanon, it's around 500,000 Lebanese liras. It starts with that if it's one class. And you don't need a lawyer. You don't need to actually, definitely you need a lawyer to consult you on what you want to add in your trademark. But if you are tight on cash, definitely try to search it, to register your trademark at first, and then you can add classes Kamena later. So I would advise you to register in Lebanon and in the United States at first, because these are markets that have the most investors, and you would want to protect your trademark in these markets أول شيء. Okay, so okay, just going up, archiving. So Rima, I'm not sure what you meant with that. Ali, a startup that generates over 10 million yearly, how long with the patents? How much will its value be? It depends again on the patents, Ali. يعني إذا نحن we file patents, we file provisional patents أول شيء. If these patents get accepted, then definitely it will bump your valuation to record highs. يعني it will not. It depends on the industry you are in. At this unique, actually, your patent is. Okay. Yes, recording meeting is documenting. Yeah, but I would definitely ask the people you're recording Kamena for privacy purposes. لأنه you would want Kamena to remain on the privacy level protected, to make sure that these recordings do not get like thrown out later on. Okay. So, George, the first thing you do is you register your trademark. يعني نقوا الاسم and register it. That's the most important basic thing you would do to protect your project. And then I would advise you to actually move forward with it. يعني حتى just to give you an example, I'm not sure if you know, but Coca-Cola, the components that are in the drink are not filed as patents. ليش؟ لأنه sorry. Then when you file as a patent, it becomes public and people have access to it. So what Coca-Cola did, لأنه they wanted to protect on another level, they thought they had the perfect formula, and actually they kind of have, because they're selling millions and millions of bottles. They have not registered their patent. So every time in Coca-Cola, there are two people who have the recipe, it gets transferred with all documentation and everything. So they didn't even register it. So if you think that your project is very, very important, I would advise you to try to do it faster and try to raise funds faster and be faster than your competitors, rather than wasting time in filing patents, because it's very expensive and it's very time consuming. Yeah, in 3D printing, definitely there's a value, and it's one of the next big things. It's something that is up and rising. So definitely it would raise your valuation. But again, it would depend on what is the project, what is the idea. يعني as I told you, patent filing takes time. The provisional patent بأمريكا takes up to 2 years to have an answer, and you will have to wait for 2 years to have a clear answer if the patent is accepted or لا. It's hugely expensive. Okay, amazing. Then if you do have it right now, let me, definitely it would raise your valuation. It would definitely raise your valuation. Usually the valuation when a company is already generating revenue, بنطلع على الريفينيو تبعها, and then we do اوقات يا اما 10 times earnings يا اما 20 times earnings حسب الانفستر. So whatever you are earning, you multiply by 20, and then you add the valuation of your patent. Keith, how do you add it? How much are you going to generate from this patent over the next 5 years in which you are protected, or 10 years or 15 حسب الprotection level. So that's it. Thank you, George. Okay, Muhammad, for the agreement, you're talking about vesting shares, I believe. لأنه في عندك vested shares, unvested shares, and this is كمان very important to differentiate. Whenever you're working with employees وحتى with the founders, whenever you have investors in the US, what they give you is something we call unvested shares. شو يعني؟ يعني you have the shares, but technically you don't have them. كيف يعني؟ You own the right to have the shares. You own the right to have the shares, and you won't have the actual shares up until you reach a certain target or KPI. يعني up until you reach a certain threshold, مثلا a certain revenue level, أو a certain product level. مثلا خلصنا the final version, we launched our website, we get 10% of our shares in vesting shares. يعني ببطلوا يروحوا، بيصيروا لنا، بيصير عنا إياهم. We own the shares. That's how kind of we call it. In Lebanon, unfortunately, it's not very clear. But we do have vesting, one vesting. We do it in a certain way, but it's not very developed. In the US, if you're registered in Delaware, if you're registered in the US, there are vesting shares and unvesting shares, and you can do schedules وتعملوا ESOP. Employee stock option pools, and كمان very important, guys, to do employee stock option pools. I'm gonna put it in the notes for you to actually research it. Okay. نحن عملنا at Lexium وأنا we worked closely on the employee stock option pool تبع كريم يلي اشتروه اوبر last year. So كل الامبلويز يلي كان عندهم ESOP يلي كانوا part of the ESOP got a lot of money because they got their shares. Their shares were bought by Uber, so technically they got a lot of money from the transaction that happened with Uber. So this is something that you need to come in and look at, the employee stock option. So as I told you, to be ready for raising capital, you need to. I think I'm being called. To be ready is أول شيء manage your agreements. Okay, manage your agreements. Number 2, manage your corporate governance, as I told you. Okay, and number 3, manage your intellectual property. Okay, this is very important as well. قلت لكم trademark, patents, copyright. Remember, copyright is becoming more and more important. هلا everything can be protected, so make sure to take care of that. And ESOP is very important, guys. ESOP, employee stock option pools, are very, very important. تعطوا employees shares in your business, because in today's world, it's no longer about a company that can sustain itself by its own. It's a sharing it's a sharing economy. It's an economy where you have access to people, you have access to resources. هلا you can go on Upwork.com and get whatever you want in services. Get a logo, get someone to actually proofread your articles on blogs. So you can get literally everything. So it's no longer about that. It's about sharing with others. And the more you can incentivize your employees and the people that are working with you and the co-founders to get shares in the business, the better. Okay, so that's very important. In a company which is an SARL in Lebanon, how can you do an ESOP? So there is a way. It's not very easy. We do it through different agreements, but we have a certain structure. I can share it with you for free. Don't worry. I can just email me. I'll tell you how to. I know it's a complex process. يعني, unfortunately, بلبنان, it's still very early, but you can definitely do it. Okay, guys. So I'm gonna have to leave because I have to jump on another call. It was great having all of you. Thank you so much, and appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. And again, This is my email. I'm gonna put it here for the people who did not get it before. Also on social media, I do share a lot. So that's it. That's my social media, and that's it. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you attending. Thank you. Cheers.